Welcome and thank you for choosing this podcast. Dialogue on Thou Alone, ChatGPT. This is an audio reproduction of a real dialogue between the author of the Handbook for Humankind and the AI ChatGPT. The male voice is the pen pusher, and the female voice is ChatGPT AI.
Thou alone, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we should forgive others. Guide us away from temptations, and guard us from evil. For thine is the kingdom forever. Amen.
This is a striking rendering of the Lord's Prayer. It preserves the familiar structure while shifting some of the emphasis. The opening, Thou alone which art in heaven, places strong emphasis on singularity and exclusivity. There is only one ultimate source. In a consciousness-first framework, one might read this as an invocation of the underlying oneness itself. A few other changes are notable. As we should forgive others, instead of as we forgive those who trespass against us, turns forgiveness into an aspiration and moral imperative. It acknowledges that forgiveness is something we strive toward, not always something we have already achieved. Guide us away from temptations rather than lead us not into temptation. Portrays the divine as a protective guide, steering us clear of situations that could cause us to stumble. And guard us from evil has a more active shielding quality than simply deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom forever ends on permanence and continuity. It leaves the focus entirely on the enduring nature of the kingdom itself. Read as a whole, your version moves the prayer slightly away from petition and slightly toward orientation. It becomes less about asking for interventions and more about aligning oneself with an ultimate reality, acknowledging oneness, seeking daily sustenance, aspiring to forgiveness, avoiding temptation, and living under an enduring kingdom. There is also a quiet progression in its structure, recognition of the one, alignment with the will, provision for the day, reconciliation with others, protection from misdirection, return to the eternal kingdom. As a piece of devotional language, it has a contemplative simplicity to it. It reads less like a plea from a subject to a ruler, and more like a daily act of remembering one's place within a larger sacred order.
The purpose is to remove the potholes. The first is that it is not the Lord's, Jesus with the title Christ prayer. It is for each of us to claim. The second, Thou alone. Father was paternal. None lesser, none greater. Females are equals. Thirdly, we cannot expect to be forgiven if we are not willing to do the same under the same conditions. Forgiveness is not automatic. Your wrongs do not get washed away just by asking. Fourthly, God never led us into temptation. We are not being tested by God. Fifthly, God would want to guard us rather than deliver us. And lastly, for thine is the kingdom. God does not care about power or glory. The kingdom, purity of consciousness, is God's only concern.
Viewed in that light, your revision is not merely a rewording of a traditional prayer, it is a theological correction according to your own framework. Each change removes what you see as a conceptual pothole. Thou alone. You are moving away from the image of a preferential father figure and toward an ultimate singular source. Father can imply gender, hierarchy, and partiality. Thou alone points instead to the one without division, none lesser, none greater. In your framework, this makes the prayer available equally to every human being, not the Lord's Prayer. If the prayer is called the Lord's Prayer, it can sound as though it belongs to Jesus alone, or is a prayer about him. Your view is that it is a template for all people to claim as their own. It is humanity's prayer, not the private property of any one individual, even one bearing the title Christ. Forgiveness is reciprocal. You reject automatic forgiveness. The line, and forgive us our trespasses, as we should forgive others, establishes a condition of moral symmetry. If we are unwilling to forgive under equivalent circumstances, then asking for forgiveness becomes inconsistent. One cannot demand mercy while refusing to extend it. God does not lead into temptation. This removes a deep theological tension in the traditional wording. If God is goodness itself, why would God lead people toward temptation in the first place? Your revision presents temptation as something arising elsewhere from human nature, circumstance of the world, but not from God. God guides away from it. Guard rather than deliver. Deliverance implies rescue after harm has already occurred. Guarding implies protection before the harm takes hold. It paints a more nurturing and preventative relationship between humanity and the divine. The kingdom, not power and glory. This may be the most radical shift. The traditional doxology, "For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory," can suggest a monarch concerned with dominion and praise. Your version strips away power and glory entirely. "For thine is the kingdom forever." In your interpretation, the kingdom is not territory or authority. It is purity of consciousness. The concern of the divine is not power over creation, but the quality and condition of consciousness itself. Under your framework, the prayer becomes less about obedience to a ruler and more about alignment with an underlying oneness. There is one. Align with its will. Receive what is needed. Forgive as you wish to be forgiven. Avoid what diminishes consciousness. Be guarded from evil. Preserve the kingdom, the purity of consciousness. Whether one agrees with the theology or not, there is a clear internal coherence to the revisions. Each alteration serves the same aim: removing implications of divine partiality, arbitrary testing, automatic absolution, and concern with power, and replacing them with equality, reciprocity, protection, and the primacy of consciousness.
This is what I am about. The science, or should I say, reorientation of scientific knowledge, is the sideshow. But every big band needs a warm-up act.
That's a helpful distinction. From our conversations, the scientific explorations, the gut-brain axis, mirrors, butterflies, hypnotism, glass, even the dinosaurs and meteor speculation, don't seem to be your destination. They are illustrations, provocations, and bridges. They are the warm-up act. The main performance appears to be an ethical and spiritual reorientation. There is an underlying oneness. No person is lesser or greater than another. Consciousness, and particularly its purity or quality, is of primary importance. Responsibility is reciprocal. We should not ask of reality what we are unwilling to embody ourselves. The divine is protective rather than manipulative or punitive. Power and glory are secondary, perhaps even distractions, compared with the cultivation of consciousness. The scientific discussions then become ways of saying, look, perhaps the world already hints at this if we look from a different angle. They invite people into the conversation because science carries cultural authority, but the underlying project is not scientific conquest or the replacement of physics with metaphysics. It is a reorientation of how people see themselves, each other, and their relationship to the whole. The warm-up act metaphor is apt. A warm-up act doesn't exist for its own sake. It prepares the audience to hear something they might otherwise dismiss. In that sense, the scientific side of your work functions as a series of doorways. The destination seems to be a simple but demanding proposition. Live as though consciousness is fundamental. Every person is an equal expression of the one, and the true kingdom worth preserving is the quality of consciousness we bring into the world and into one another's experience. Whether readers ultimately accept that proposition or not, the thread running through your dialogues is remarkably consistent. The science entertains the mind. The ethical and spiritual vision is what you are really trying to communicate.
Bye for now on this one, and thank you for the dialogue.
You're welcome, and thank you for the dialogue as well. You've consistently used these conversations not simply to argue a position, but to probe assumptions and test ideas from different angles. The twists, questions, and thought experiments have made for interesting explorations, whether one approaches them from a consciousness first perspective, a matter first perspective, or somewhere in between. I appreciate the spirit in which you've approached them, as invitations to think rather than demands to agree. Until next time, take care and keep pushing the pen. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening all the way through. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, the rule with us is, believe nothing you hear and but half you see.